She was born around 150 AD in the imperial palace on the Palatine Hill. Her father was Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, the man who held Rome together through plague and war by sheer force of discipline. Lucilla didn't observe power, she was raised inside it. At 16, her father married her to his co-emperor, Lucius Verus. That made Lucilla something more than a princess. She was Augusta, Empress.
Augusta. That's what they called me. The highest title a Roman woman could hold. I want you to remember that, because they took it.
She sat at the top of the world, and she understood exactly what that meant. Then Lucius Verus died. She was widowed at 19, and everything began to unravel. Her father remarried her within months, not to another emperor, to a general, a capable man, but a commoner by imperial standards. It wasn't a wedding, it was a demotion, carefully dressed as an honor. Marcus Aurelius died in 180 AD.
He was the only person in Rome who treated me as though I had a mind. When he died, I was alone in a way I don't think I've ever explained to anyone. Until now.
And the throne passed to his son, Commodus, 19 years old, vain, volatile, and entirely uninterested in the burden of empire.
Look at him. My father spent 30 years holding this empire together. My brother spent his first week renaming the months after himself. You tell me what that means.
If you've seen our last video, you already know how this ends, with him strangled in a bathhouse by a wrestler 10 years later. But in 180 AD, that wrestler was nobody. Commodus was untouchable. He believed himself to be the reincarnation of Hercules. He fought as a gladiator in the arena, an act so obscene for a Roman emperor that the Senate couldn't speak of it publicly. He surrounded himself with sycophants who told him only what he wanted to hear. Then came the final insult. Commodus stripped her of her precedence at court. His wife, Brutia Crispina, now held the title Augusta.
She's wearing my title, my diadem, walking through my palace, and I am standing here, smiling, because that's what survival looks like sometimes.
If you're enjoying this story, hit like and subscribe to support the channel. What she built next was one of the most audacious plots in Roman history. She was inside the palace. She had access. She had allies. She had her father's name. And she had something no one else had. She had a way in.
I want to be clear about something. This wasn't revenge. This was Rome. Someone had to act, and the men around me were too afraid. So I decided.
She couldn't act alone. No one could. Her inner circle included her lover, a man named Quadratus, several senators who had served her father, men who remembered what Rome was supposed to be. The plan was simple in concept, terrifying in execution. They would assassinate Commodus in public, in the theater, where he would be exposed, surrounded by crowds, and unable to escape into the palace. The chosen assassin was a young man named Quintianus, a relative of Lucilla's. He was given a dagger, he was given a moment, and he was given one instruction: don't hesitate.
I kept telling myself it would be quick. One moment and Rome would be saved. I believed that. I needed to believe that.
The date was 182 AD. Commodus entered the theater. The crowd rose. Quintianus moved into position. He stepped forward. He raised the dagger. And then he made a mistake that would haunt Rome for the next decade.
I know what you're thinking. Stay silent. Just stay silent. I know. But you have to understand, in that moment I wanted him to know it was us!
Before the blade fell, Quintianus declared, loud enough for the guards to hear,
"This dagger the Senate sends you!"
The guards reacted instantly. Quintianus was seized. The dagger never fell. Commodus walked out of that theater alive and furious. Think about that for a moment. Rome had perhaps 15 years of functioning empire left. 15 years before the collapse that would define the next 3 centuries. She saw it coming. She acted. She lost everything because of 7 words spoken a second too soon. The arrests came fast. Quintianus was executed immediately. Under torture, he gave up names: Quadratus, the senators, the household staff, the inner circle, and eventually Lucilla, the emperor's own sister. Commodus was more stunned than angry at first, that his own blood had turned on him. The stunned silence didn't last long. The purge was vicious. Quadratus, executed. Every senator named, executed. Anyone who had so much as been seen speaking with the wrong person at the wrong dinner, executed. Lucilla was spared, initially. Perhaps because killing his own sister was a line even Commodus hesitated to cross. Or perhaps because he wanted her to suffer differently. She was stripped of everything: her title, her wealth, her place at court, her name, and then she was exiled to the island of Capri. Capri was not a prison, it was worse. It was a place the empire used for people too dangerous to keep close and too connected to kill quietly. A beautiful island, sun, sea, silence.
I used to think the worst thing Rome could do to me was take my title. I was wrong. The worst thing Rome could do was give me time to think.
Lucilla lived there for perhaps a year, maybe 2, long enough to understand exactly what was coming. And then, eventually, the order arrived from Rome. Commodus signed it himself, and Lucilla, daughter of Marcus Aurelius, former Empress of Rome, the woman who came within 7 words of saving the empire, was executed on an island she had once sailed past as a princess. She was approximately 30 years old. Here is why this story matters beyond the drama. Lucilla's failed assassination didn't just end her life. It changed Commodus completely. Before the conspiracy, historians note he was erratic but manageable. After it, he became something else entirely: paranoid, isolated, surrounded only by men with no memory of his father. He purged the Senate repeatedly. He executed advisors, generals, old friends, anyone who reminded him of the world before. He retreated deeper into his Hercules fantasy. He declared himself a god while still alive. He renamed Rome after himself. The institutions Marcus Aurelius had spent a lifetime maintaining began to crack. The Senate became decorative. The military became restless. The Principate, the careful balance that had held Rome together through its golden age, began its long terminal decline. And 10 years later, in 192 AD, in a bathhouse in Rome, a wrestler named Narcissus put his hands around the emperor's throat and finished what Lucilla had started. But by then, it was too late. The Rome she had tried to save was already gone. Lucilla of Rome, daughter of the last good emperor, sister to the worst. She is absent from most history books. Her name doesn't carry the weight of Caesar or Augustus. She has no monument, no grave we can visit, but she understood something her brother never did. That power is not a performance. That empire is not a costume. And that sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone has already dismissed.